of incest, murder, and suicide leaves 2 people dead here in Connecticut and 3 different states now.
That case, 20-year-old Katie Pladl and her adopted father, 56-year-old Anthony Busco, both dead.
A shocking case of father marries, then shoots daughter. On April 12, 2018, many found themselves sickened and shocked at the outcome of the tragically fatal events that had occurred in Dover, New York. Reeling from the unwinding of the circumstances that left several dead, many say that the outcome of the following case is one that many could have seen coming and that could have been avoided. The unusual case of Steven and Katie Pladl is not only one of the most unusual incest cases of the century, but the deadly outcome of the murder-suicide deeply shocked all of America and the rest of the world. In 1995, 20-year-old Steven Pladl met 15-year-old Alyssa Gracia in an internet chat room. The two began a romantic relationship with each other, and Alyssa soon became pregnant. In 1998, Alyssa gave birth to a girl that they named Denise. However, when baby Denise was just 8 months old, the couple put her up for adoption. Years later, when questioned on what brought her to this decision, Alyssa told the media that she and Steven put Denise up for adoption because Steven was abusing their baby. When asked for specifics, Alyssa claimed that Steven would pinch their infant daughter until her skin was badly bruised. Alyssa claimed that Steven would also shut the baby in a beverage cooler to mute her crying, not allowing Alyssa to take her out until the baby was near suffocation. Despite this abuse, Alyssa continued to stay with Steven and ended up marrying him in 2006. The couple went on to have 2 more daughters together. Baby Denise was soon adopted by a couple named Tony and Kelly Fusco. The Fuscos decided to rename Denise and settled on the name Katie. Katie Fusco was raised alongside the Fuscos' biological daughter and son in a town named Dover, around 80 miles north of New York City. The Fuscos described Katie as a normal teenager who lived a normal life with them. Katie was known as an aspiring artist in her high school who enjoyed drawing comic strips and planned on attending college with the hopes of attaining a career in digital advertising. In January of 2016, Katie turned 18 years of age. At this point in her life, Katie had known she'd been adopted for a few years. However, Katie's adoptive parents claimed that once she became of age, Katie began showing a growing interest in reconnecting with her birth parents. Katie found them on the internet and began messaging them in hopes of meeting up one day. The Pladls were apparently very happy to reunite with their daughter and invited her to move in with them and their other 2 young daughters in their home in Henrico County, Virginia. In August of 2016, Katie was expected to start college, but instead, she moved in with her biological parents in Virginia. However, according to Katie's birth mother, Alyssa, things at a Pladl's home were not going well. Alyssa was in the process of trying to divorce her husband, Steven, whom she claimed had an out-of-control temper and was emotionally and verbally abusive to her and their children. Alyssa claims that Steven threatened to kill himself if she ever left him and to record him doing the act, so that she would be haunted by the image forever. Steven had a concerning obsession with guns and legally owned 4 to 5 assault-style rifles, which he kept in their home. Though Steven never threatened to use these weapons against his family, Alyssa claimed that Steven's angry outbursts consisted of throwing furniture around and punching walls, and resorting to animal cruelty, such as beating a stray cat to death after it snuck into their garage. Soon after Katie moved in with them, Alyssa told Katie that the reason for her being put up for adoption was that Steven had been abusive to her as a baby. Katie was, oddly, not at all bothered by this information and continued to treat Steven with love and admiration. Steven's behavior changed drastically after Katie moved in. Steven began changing his appearance and clothing choices in an attempt to appear more youthful. The alarm bells started ringing for Alyssa when she found out that Steven had begun sleeping on Katie's bedroom floor at night. When Alyssa confronted him about it, he responded angrily, saying that it was none of her business what he did with his daughter. And allegedly, he and Katie both stormed out of the house after this argument. 3 months later, in November of 2016, Alyssa finally moved out of their house and gained shared custody of their 2 children. However, it wasn't until May of 2017 that Alyssa found her 11-year-old daughter's diary. Their 2 children still visited Steven and Katie in Virginia, and in this diary, Alyssa's young daughter had documented her observations of Katie and Steven's relationship. What Alyssa found out was a horrific discovery that would change their lives forever. Written in her daughter's journal was information depicting how Steven and Katie had begun an incestuous romantic and sexual relationship with each other. Apparently, the couple had even told the two young children to call Katie their stepmother. What was worse, though, was that the diary claimed that Katie had just gotten pregnant by Steven. Terrified that this may be true, Alyssa immediately called Steven to ask about what she read. Steven confirmed her findings, saying that he thought she knew already about how in love they were and that there was nothing Alyssa could do to stop them. Horrified at what this meant for the unborn child, Alyssa soon called the police to report Steven's behavior. However, the police took months to investigate, and in the meantime, Steven and Katie's relationship progressed even more. Alyssa and Steven's divorce was finalized in May 2017. 2 months later, in July, Steven and Katie were officially married in Parkton, Maryland, after lying to the officiants about being related to each other. Shockingly, Tony and Kelly Fusco, Katie's adoptive parents, can be found posing with the newlyweds in their wedding photos. This was clearly very unusual behavior from adoptive parents, considering the concerning unusualness of their adoptive daughter's relationship with her biological father. In an interview, Tony and Kelly Fusco claimed they were incredibly anxious about Katie moving in with her birth parents to begin with, but didn't feel like they could do anything to stop it. Considering Katie was now of age and legally able to make her own decisions, the Fuscos claimed that they were simply trying to support their daughter in any way that they could. Nearly 2 months after their marriage, Katie gave birth to their son, a baby they named Bennett. After Bennett's birth, Katie and Steven moved with their new child into a home in Knightdale, North Carolina. According to sources, the couple lived in harmony until a fateful night in January, when they were both finally arrested on account of incest charges, which were reported by Katie's birth mother, Alyssa, months before. Katie and Steven showed up in court together, and the judge ordered them to not contact each other again, and Alyssa and her 2 daughters were granted a restraining order against Steven. Steven's mother was given custody of Katie and Steven's baby. However, no restrictions were placed on Steven's contact with his son. In February, Steven was released on bail and moved into a hotel in Virginia after being banned from the state of North Carolina. However, this ban was lifted in March by Henrico County Judge Stuart Williams, which gave Steven access to his old house, including his weapons. In the meantime, Katie had moved back in with her adoptive parents, Tony and Kelly, and lived with them until the tragic events that occurred a few months later. On April 12, 2018, Katie and Tony were leaving their home in Dover, on their way to visit Katie's adoptive grandmother in a nearby town called Waterbury, a trip Katie and Tony made every Tuesday and Thursday since she had moved back. A surveillance video obtained by the police shows that Steven Pladl watched them leave their house. Only minutes later, witnesses reported hearing gunfire in the area. Katie and Tony were then found dead in their car, fatally shot, with the windows blown out. Authorities discovered an AR-15 style rifle that Steven had used for the killings. A 911 call from Steven's mother gave authorities insight into the situation. On the call, Steven's mother reported to operator that Steven, who had picked up his infant child from her the day before, claimed that he was bringing the baby to Katie in Dover. However, he called her back earlier that day, admitting that he had killed his child and left him there in his old home, alone for her to come to pick up. Steven's mother then claimed that Steven also admitted to killing Katie and Tony next. He told her that Katie had called him to break up with him the day before, and she believed that this is what inspired the killing spree. Steven was soon found dead in Dover, with a self-inflicted gunshot wound that authorities believe was an act of suicide. According to Steven's lawyer, there was no allegation against Steven for pressuring Katie into a relationship, and he believed that Katie willingly became romantically involved with her father. Steven's lawyer claims that the two bonded so intensely because of their biological relationship, but because they had never met before she turned 18 years old. The love they felt overwhelmed the fact that they were related. And that concludes one of the most shocking incestual murder-suicide cases in American history. Considering Katie's youth and Steven's violent past, do you believe that Katie was manipulated into a romantic relationship and taken advantage of by Steven? Or do you think that Katie acted freely, falling in love with her biological father of her own volition? Do you find it neglectful of the judge to lift Steven's ban from the state of North Carolina, which ultimately allowed him access to his weapons? Let us know in the comments below. If you appreciated this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more true crime coverage. Thanks for watching, and see you soon in the next video.